Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Hey Crime Curious crew, we wanted to tell you how you can fuel your soul with every sip from Pretty Bomb Coffee, one of our small business sponsors that we have fallen in love with. Welcome to a coffee experience born of service, heart, and bold Pacific Northwest flavor. This veteran-owned, woman-run, and faith-based small business comes with a mission: craft clean, delicious energy for life's everyday moments. After 22 years in the Air Force, one of the founders of Pretty Bomb Coffee brought his devotion home, where he supports his wife's dream to serve up more than just coffee. They serve purpose. The beans are roasted in small batches by a family-owned roaster in Washington State, blended exclusively for Pretty Bomb Coffee to deliver rich, bold flavor with smooth character in every brew. Every cup tells a story. They skip the artificial stuff and they keep it real with plant-based, dye-free ingredients, whether it's a velvety espresso or vibrant all-natural energy drinks. You'll taste the difference and feel it too. You can choose your grind, drip, espresso, French press, or whole bean. Available in 12-ounce and 16-ounce bags, shipped straight to your doorstep. Or you can stop by one of their 2 locations in Gaffney, South Carolina, where the coffee's hot and the welcome's even warmer. Because coffee should do more than wake you up, it should make you feel good. So visit prettybombcoffee.com for their online shop and physical locations and use code BOMB10 for 10% off your first order. That's www.prettybombcoffee.com and use code BOMB10 for 10% off your first order. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
And Brainbath Jason.
Megan is out of the studio this week.
We didn't kick her out. She just couldn't make it.
Yeah. She's on an anniversary trip with her hubbies. Congratulations to them on their, what did we decide, 125 years?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It seems like
it. Okay, are you ready to hear this listener request case today?
Yep.
This was requested a while ago by James. Thank you, James. This is the case of Carol Hutto, H-U-T-T-O. A tutu. H-U-T-T-O.
T-O-O.
No, just one O. Let's say it again. Carol Hutto.
Hutto.
H-U-T-T-O.
Hutto?
I don't know. The news reporters were pronouncing it
Hutto.
Hutto.
All right, we'll do it Hutto.
Hutto, Hutto. No, she's just an American woman. Carol Hutto. Anyway, this case starts December 13th, 1976.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. I was born.
Good year. I know. I was expecting to be like, good. That's an excellent year.
Excellent year.
Like it's a wine.
Right.
When 16-year-old Carol told her parents that she was going to go to a nearby drugstore and would be back in a few minutes. When unfortunately the Largo High School junior never returned. Largo is in Florida. This is a Florida case. Carol was born February 6th, 1960 to Norma Hutto and William Thomas Sr. Hutto. She had 4 siblings and at the time was a very typical teenager. Her mother, Norma, said that Carol loved doing things with her family, which at the time were things like going to NASCAR races and wrestling matches. She was a Christian girl who was very particular about who she hung around with. Carol, as any teenage girls does, had a crush on a boy who lived near her, 17-year-old James. And I have heard James's last name pronounced many different ways. I'm going to spell it for you. And then I'm just going to call him James. Because if I get one more freaking passive-aggressive comment, especially from YouTube, about it's pronounced this way. Yeah, okay. Well, you try to pronounce all the last names in the world. James' last name is spelled K-U-E-N-N.
Kuenn.
Mm-hmm. Kun, whatever.
I would probably go with Kuhn.
Well, I've heard it Kunen, Kun, Kun, Quen. Seriously, there's a lot of different. I'm just saying James K. Okay,
Sure.
We don't go.
James K.
We really, it's not relevant.
Right.
It's not important.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Move on.
But one time we did get on YouTube, someone made this comment about how I pronounced the murderer's last name wrong, and she knew him because she went to high school and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit if I say the murderer's last name wrong, ever.
Yeah.
I care about the victims, don't care about the murderer. Bye-bye. Anyway, so if you want to leave a shitty comment, just don't, because honestly, guys, we don't care about your shitty comments. We're going to keep doing this whether you like us or not, because that's who we are as people.
Change the channel.
Anyway, so James had actually called Carol the evening of December 13th, 1976. Norma answered the phone. He asked to speak to Carol. Remember those days when you had to actually talk to the parents before you could get to your friend? The two chatted for a few minutes, and a couple hours later, Carol left home to go to the drugstore. And it wasn't like her to not return. Remember, she was a good Christian girl and was careful about who she hung out with and was very, very close with her friends, her family. So her siblings and her parents were looking for her right away when she didn't return that evening. The very next day, Carol's body was found by her half-brother, Jerry Irwin. She was in a shallow pond not far from their house. She was face down, and her body had been weighed down with cement blocks. Yeah, I see your face right now. I know, 16-year-old Carol. What the hell? How could this have happened? Near her body was a pink blanket and a raincoat. She was naked from the waist down, and her watch had stopped at 10:36, likely when it went into the water. The autopsy that was done revealed that Carol had actually died as a result of drowning, so she was put in that pond alive. Although she did have blunt force trauma to her head and her neck, had very distinct markings of being strangled. It was likely that she was unconscious when she was put into the pond. And then with, of course, the water evidence found in her lungs and tissues, it was obvious that she had been alive when placed in there and drowned. Now, the police immediately suspected Jerry, the half-brother who found her, and the investigation right away, Jay, focuses on him. Now, whether it was because of family issues or simply the fact that they thought it was awful suspicious that he knew where to find her, this is where the investigation placed much of their focus. But it really wasn't, I didn't think it was really suspicious that he found her. She wasn't very far from her home at all. This pond was not far. So if you're canvassing the area of the last known place where she was found, or where she was, which was her home, and then walking to the drugstore, you're likely going to come across her that if she's that close to home. Okay, so they place a lot of their investigation on Jerry Irwin. However, Carol's diary did give them other clues. It was obvious from her entries that she had a crush on this James. And the investigators do interview him too, briefly. He told them he had not seen Carol that night, and they left it at that. Carol's pants were found in a home that was under construction at the time, and there was a burnt log in the fireplace and evidence of a small makeshift bed and struggle. There was also a 2x4 with markings that had matched the trauma of Carol's head. So the police knew that this is likely where Carol was rendered unconscious before being taken to the pond. And if I haven't said it, this home that was under construction, it was very close to Carol's home. This was not far. We must remember that this is 1976 and DNA technology was not advanced, although many argue that there was plenty of clues here without it as to who to focus the crime on, but they don't. They keep focusing it on Jerry. They can't get any definitive evidence against him, and the case goes cold. As I said earlier, this focus, I think, makes them miss some very obvious clues, right? Then in 1994, the Largo police were taking a second look at their unsolved cold cases, and a detective at the time who was on light duty from an injury that he had sustained, his name was Brad Hoyes, and another detective, Mike Short, they started to look at Carol's case. And they focused on Carol's diary, and they're checking it with the notes in the case. And they realized that the police were not actually able to pinpoint an alibi for James, who much of Carol's diary focused on. It's clear she had a crush and infatuation with him. He also was never given a polygraph. So their first step in reopening this case is to go back and re-interview people. And Detective Mike Short and the then Lieutenant John Carroll, who later actually becomes Largo's deputy chief, they pay a surprise visit to Connecticut, where James was stationed in the Navy. He had joined the Navy in 1983 at the age of 24. And this is now 1994. So he had been a Navy veteran. He was actually not a veteran, He had been a naval petty officer for 11 years at this point in time. So this time, James, as they're interviewing him, remember they interviewed him once before in 1976. And he said, I didn't see her that night. I have no idea where she's at. So this time he contradicts his previous statement and he admits that he did see her that night. Now, Detective Mike Short had actually went to Largo High School with James. And I think that for me, this is an important piece, okay? Because when you do research on this case, it might just briefly mention that Detective Short knew James because they went to school together. But I actually think that this made James feel more comfortable because he knew Mike. And so he tells them that, it's 1994. It's like, I barely remember anything. And then he said, I just kind of put up walls. If I do remember, I'm going to jail. When he says that, he then goes on to say he did see Carol that night. And if he remembers right, she tripped and hit her head. And it was a total accident, and he panicked. So he took her pants off, and he wanted to make it look like someone else had done it, right? So she tripped, hit her head. He took her pants off in an effort. He thought she was dead after she hit her head. So he took her pants off to make it look like it was, somebody else, not a 17-year-old. And that's all he says. Okay? Now,
just spouts that off.
He does. He tells them. And then he says, I don't remember a lot. I put up walls. If I remember, I'm probably going to jail. Here's the other problem, though. His explanation doesn't match her injuries.
Right.
Okay, she has blunt force trauma to her head from that 2x4.
She didn't hit her head.
Yes.
Something hit her head.
Something hit her head, and they know it. They already have that information. And so at this point, they don't have a confession or DNA evidence against Mike Short. But now they know we have the right guy. Okay, now our investigation can focus on the right guy and not Jerry Irwin because he's already contradicted himself and he's already made half-truths.
Right.
Okay.
If I admit to something lesser, then it's okay.
Yes. The next day, they go to interview him again, but this time James had sought legal counsel. He declined any further interviews and he refused a polygraph. So without more physical evidence, the police and the prosecutors didn't think that they had enough evidence to guarantee a first-degree murder conviction and anything less than first degree, and he would likely go free because the statutes of limitations at the time. Remember, this is 11. Well, no. How many years? This is from
18 years.
Right. And he'd been in the Navy for 11 years. So they don't want to just go after him with this haphazard evidence at this point in time. Okay. So that was 94. 2 years later in 1996, the Naval Criminal Investigation Services, known as the NCIS, their cold case squad joined the investigation out of Mayport, Florida, because And remember, James is still an active duty naval officer. Time was not on the side of investigators, but technology was. Just to take us back a little bit, in the late 1980s, forensic scientists began testing DNA to prove guilt or innocence in criminal cases. We've covered a lot of those. But by the late 1990s, methods began to focus on the mitochondrial DNA found in tiny organelles in human cells, which are more likely to survive over the years. So in 1998, so 4 years after the original, when they know this is our guy, we've just got to prove it, with the help of the NCIS, the Largo police submit hair samples found at the scene to the FBI laboratory. What we learn is that there was actually a hair that was found on Carol's jeans. Now remember, her jeans were in that abandoned house, or not abandoned house, excuse me. The house that's under construction. It was being built, right? And so they found a hair sample that did not match Carol's on those jeans, and they saved it all these years. They were able to get a search warrant with this information and this hair follicle. They were able to obtain a search warrant to compare James' DNA with this evidence. At this point in time, so this is 1998. At this point in time, James is 38. He's a father and has been married twice. And they've got the warrant. He has to give his DNA, so he does. And minutes after giving the DNA sample, James confessed to NCIS agents. Detective Mike Short watched the confession from a room across the hall. He says, they have his DNA in their hands, in the hands of the NCIS agents. Now all of a sudden, James can suddenly recall that fateful night when he and Carol met at the house that was under construction. They kissed, they were making out, but Carol was reluctant to have sex with him. This pissed James off. And it didn't stop him from trying, right? And she struggled. She started to scream. This was a very quiet neighborhood. James knew that her screams were radiating through the neighborhood, so he claimed at the time to be under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. That's just what he says. But he hit her with a 2x4 to quiet her screams, and then attempted to strangle her, hoping it would make the crime look like it was completed by a rapist murderer, which in my opinion, it absolutely was.
Still was.
Yep. He then took her body and some cement blocks from that construction site to the pond that was near her home and threw her in. Now, sometimes he has claimed he thought she was already dead. He didn't realize she was still alive. I don't know. But regardless, he didn't want her alive. All of this happened within just a couple of miles from her home. Now, at this point in time, this confession does match evidence from the investigation precisely. Right. Unlike the one in 1994 when he was just haphazardly saying. So they have this the same day that this hair follicle that was taken from her jeans was, he was told about the hair follicle, and that's why they got the warrant to get his DNA. So within minutes of giving his DNA, he gives this full confession that matches the evidence that they already had. This is what they needed. This is what they needed back in 1976. Months later, the hair on the jeans came back. It did not match James.
Oh, shit.
Nope. But nevertheless, the threat of the DNA led to his confession. Yeah, it wasn't his hair, but the story that he told exactly matched the evidence that only he could have known.
Yeah, no, he had no reason to lie or make up stories that matched the evidence.
Right. And none of this, you guys need to understand, none of this evidence had been released to the public. And as a matter of fact, Carol's family had been very quiet all of these years about the case, other than, wanting justice and things like that. Nothing None of these details would have been released that he could have read about or anything like that.
And the science behind DNA evidence was improving at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had this conversation not that long ago during an episode that I didn't realize that forensic science was not as old as I thought it was.
Right. It's not as old as you are, Jay.
Right. Which I still feel like I'm 30. But yeah, so I think the fear of that science got the confession.
It sure did.
Because it was new stuff.
It was.
And they're like, hey, we've got this hair and there's science that can match you to the thing. He's like, oh shit, yep, that was me.
And it truly was within minutes of them having his blood sample that he is like, yeah, I mean, I'm up. At this point in time, he'd been in the Navy how long? Like he knows.
14 years.
You know, like he knows.
Yeah.
If this comes back, I'm fucked.
Right.
But
So,
I did love that it
that's
came
funny.
back not his, but
It's just a random hair, probably from her dog.
yeah, sure. Yeah, it was. It just wasn't her hair. That's what they knew, that it just wasn't. It didn't match
man.
her hair. So let's go ahead. And you're absolutely right. This was such new technology that it's like, okay, if they've got that, you know, maybe my hair could have been on her. I'm the one that did it. I might as well just confess now, because then maybe I can negotiate.
Right. Maybe I
Better.
get a little bit better sense.
So that's 1998. In 2000, his actual, I'm calling it a trial, but it's really his sentencing and things like that happens in 2000. He was 40 years old by this time. He's lived a life. He's been married twice, has 2 kids, and he was sentenced to life in prison, but with the possibility of parole after 25 years, which would be this year, Jay.
Oh, man.
This was 2000. Now, Carol's family had to wait 22 years for the truth and 24 years for justice. But time is actually what helped this case. The threat of the DNA matching was enough for James to confess, and during the sentencing, Norma, Carol's mother, read him the Riot Act during the sentencing. You know, some people they don't want to say anything, right? Or they might, and this was her victim impact statement, but she absolutely shamed him for calling her that evening and then pretending to know nothing, for coming to her funeral and acting like a sad boy who had suffered a tragic loss, all while knowing she was gone because of him.
Oh.
Yeah. All because she didn't want to have sex with him. Because she was a good Christian girl. She thought she's 16, and she just thought that she was going to go meet her crush at this house and make out with him, right? Like just such normal 16-year-old stuff back in 1976.
Yeah.
I mean, Norma told James that she hopes he will never be a free man because Carol didn't get to be free. She didn't get to walk down the aisle. She didn't get to have children or even graduate high school. All the things that as a mother she had envisioned for her child. Now, as I said, his sentence was life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years, which is this year. So now Carol's family will have to petition parole boards to keep him locked up. After all, he got to live a free man, getting military benefits and all, from the age of 17 to 40. Why should he get the chance to live as a free man again at the age of 65? And I don't think that he should.
No, I agree. I would have gone full Samuel Jackson in the courtroom. They're like, goddamn right, he deserved to die, and I hope he burns in hell.
Right. I mean, I'm glad that her family got the justice, but at the same token, now here we are 25 years later, and you know he's going to petition the parole board. He's going to go up each year, or however long, going to go up for parole. Now, I don't know. I couldn't find anything, you guys, on how he's been in prison, right? But I do know that him having served in the Navy, which obviously he was dishonorably discharged from, I hope that doesn't ever have any bearing on whether or not he should go free. in my opinion, it almost makes him more dangerous because he's been highly trained now.
And that he just went on living his life like nothing happened.
He sure did.
Like, I'm just going to go and move to Connecticut and join the Navy and get married and have kids and be an officer. And I'm just loving my life and nothing. I didn't do anything wrong. Like it was a spider on a wall, and not a human being. Like nothing happened. So yeah, he doesn't deserve to be free at all.
Not at all. And to have been able to be free until you were 40 years old and then have the possibility again at 65, you could still live a whole ass life from 65 to whatever, 100, right? Like that doesn't feel like justice to me that he spent his midlife days in prison.
Yeah.
I really, really hope that for Carol's family's sake and society in general, because I don't think he's not a dangerous person, that he stays there and serves out the life sentence. So thank you for that recommendation. Just so you guys know, there was a cold, you know how A&E, do you get that channel? A&E? Yeah. They do cold case files. I noticed in a lot of the research that A&E did an episode on this. And I was reading from some of the producers, some statements that they were making. They picked Carol's case because of the way that just the advancements in DNA and the threat of having a DNA match made this man confess, right? And the biggest reason why A&E picked it up and why I wanted to highlight it as well, too. I mean, James recommended it to us, but also because this was police work that went on for a long time. You know, granted, in 1976, I think that the police work was really shitty. They should have been focusing more on James because of her diary entries and things like that. If they couldn't pinpoint his alibi, that's suspicious in of itself. Yeah. He refused a polygraph back then too. Again, doesn't make you guilty, but is suspicious. And we could have maybe went a little further with line of questioning for James back then. But also then this cold case squad that comes in Largo, from the Largo police station in 1994, kudos to them because they knew they had the right guy in 94 and they just had to buy their time. And then they got the NCIS involved. And again, still have to buy their time until this technology can help them. This was police that didn't give up on a cold case. And I really honor, or I find that very admirable. And anybody else out there who has suffered a loss and is thinking that there's absolutely no hope, there are police officers out there that will go the extra mile and really try to solve cases where they can. And technology is advancing every single day. Yeah. So don't give up hope.
Those two, Carol and Short, that was commitment and patience.
John Carroll, that detective, there was
you said
three of them.
He ended up becoming, getting some promotions.
Yep, the chief at Largo.
But that's commitment and patience that they just didn't stop and kept circling back to it and knowing that they would eventually have a chance to solve that and prove it.
And even that gentleman, the detective, I have to scroll back for his name now, who was injured. And so he was on light duty and he's the one that helped open it up as well. Brad Hoyce. Great job. Way to make good use of your time. Yeah. And I'm sure there are hundreds of stories out there like this, but Carol's is one that I feel like would be so easily to not be picked up by A&E or something like that, or to be told, because there's not a whole lot of information, right? I mean, we didn't interview Carol's family to know more about her. I'm sure A&E did. And you can watch this if you want to look up the episode. I mean, it was a long time ago that it was released, but that it is out there. I didn't watch it prior to doing some of that stuff. The made-for-TV stuff exaggerates, or they'll put that disclaimer up that says that it is
dramatization.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I don't often like to watch things like that and call it as part of the research. I prefer to use different sources, but But just know that you can watch it, and maybe it would have a little bit more details or whatnot. I just don't ever know what I can trust sometimes from those sorts of sources. But yeah, so that is the case of Carol Hutto, and
Poor Carol, but there was justice eventually.
there was, and I really think that that's a big takeaway from this case, especially if anybody that is listening has been a victim before or loved someone who was a victim. Don't give up hope, because this was 24 years that it took for them to get the sentence, 22 years to get the justice, but then, of course, the court system. So 24 years before he was sentenced, and now he's served a 25-year of his life sentence, and
I couldn't
hopefully
find
stays
anything
that way.
current. I mean, his name pops up immediately when you type it in, James Coon, Florida, from this whole story, but there's nothing recent as far, so he must not have had a hearing or parole hearing yet.
Yep.
But it's coming.
Not that I could see. Yes. I imagine that it absolutely will, unless he has been a total shitbag in prison and isn't eligible right now because of disciplinary action, which I also couldn't find information on either. Not that it's necessarily always available, but sometimes media does pick up stories like that too, and you can tell if they've had a lot of disciplinary action in prison. But are you ready for a bath?
Sure.
Right now, I found this. This is a review. Sometimes, we love to do funny reviews. And this is a review for Little Caesars Pizza. Have you seen this one?
I did. I saw this just this week.
Oh my gosh.
Like 4 people have sent this to me.
No shit?
Yeah.
Well, maybe other people have too.
Read
But
it. I hope it's true.
I hope it's true too.
Because it's a great story.
Yes. Okay, so it's a 5-star review for Little Caesars Pizza. It says, I stopped into this Little Caesars just trying to get a $6 pizza and ended up in a full-on action movie. Just as I grabbed my order, this furious dude barges in yelling about how I cut him off in traffic earlier. Before I can even respond, he throws a punch, but then out of nowhere, the guy behind the counter jumps over it like he's been waiting for this moment his whole life and just beats the living hell out of this guy. The guy ran off and the cashier just dusted himself off. I said, "Are you okay, man?" And he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Bitch, this is Little Caesars. We're always hot and ready." 5 stars will absolutely return.
That's awesome. Like I said,
let
I
it
hope
be true.
that poor guy's been freaking working at Little Caesars, just waiting for something to happen. Like, my life is so miserable. I wish something cool would happen. And some lunatic come around and he's like, this is it. I'm beating this guy's ass.
I can do this. This is my moment.
And he's probably just dreamt about that moment and had that line ready in his head.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Bitch, this is Little Caesars. We always hot and ready.
So I have a really short story. It's funny.
Please do.
So I was golfing last week and in my league with my golf partner, and we get paired up with these 2 ladies, and they were beginners.
Oh, okay.
And on the very and it was we have fun. We're not intense.
Your golf partner who rhymes with Gary?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we just have fun, and we always enjoy meeting new people, and they're a good company. And
You're 2 social workers, for fuck's
basically.
sake.
And they were fun. They weren't good golfers, but they were fun. And on the last hole, this woman, she's like, I can't remember how many shots we've had. Strokes, not shots.
I was like, wait a second, tequila?
How many golf
what are we
shots?
doing?
How many strokes they had? Okay. And she's like, is it 4 or 5? She's like, I think I need one of those little clickers, at a bar when they let people in. And she's like, to keep track of my strokes. And I said, or you could get some beads. Because, that's a thing.
It is.
People carry a string of beads on their golf bag to keep track of their strokes, how many they have.
And they move the beads to one side for one stroke.
Abacus.
It is. It is 100%.
Like a little abacus portable. But the look on her, and I said that, my partner looks at me, and she stopped, she was in mid-putt. And she stops and turns and looks at me, and she's like, the fuck? And I was like, I go, beads, to keep counting your strokes. And my partner looks at me, looks at her, and just turns and walks off the course without me. He's like, nope, we're done.
The time that you had just met 2 women and suggested anal beads to them.
Yep. I was like, no. I was like, yeah. I was like, no, smaller ones that you carry in your pocket. And she's like, what the hell?
Honey, beginner golfers will have no clue what those are.
This woman was horrified. And she was like my age, and her partner was a senior citizen.
Oh my.
And again,
Oh,
that's why my partner he's like, nope, he couldn't even say anything. He just looked at me, looked at her, and left.
And you know that her partner, the senior citizen, was like, yeah, I know all about those beads.
We're going to be getting a talk from the management at the golf course.
You absolutely are. You're going to have to bring a ball counter, a beaded ball counter, just for proof of this is what I was talking about. My very first ball counter was a string of beads.
Just got the 2. Sorry, general audience.
No, that's okay. They know what they are too. The audience knows what we're talking about. But no, I did. I used to use a string of beads. And then the problem is I would forget to move the ball. By the way, usually they're cute little golf balls. Yeah. That's what they usually are, but they are about the size of a bead. Yeah. You know, but yeah. Luckily now I golf well enough that I don't need to click.
No one's carrying around Benoit.
They're not, but they do look pretty funny hanging off of people's golf bags. They do, you guys, it does straight up look like anal beads.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't have them.
Right. From what I've seen on commercials.
Yeah. Right. That's what I heard.
Right. Like, I too don't have them, but like, I'm not saying that I've never seen the product advertised. Like,
still talking about golf.
Yes. Oh God. With that,
okay.
We should probably end this before it goes south any more than it already has. Do you get any more deep south than anal beads anyway?
No, that's past the Mason-Dixon line for sure.
It sure is. Oh my Lord. I'm gonna do we didn't do juju at the beginning of this. There we go. Let's do it now. Let's end on a positive note, shaking all of our gree-gree.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, with that, we hope that you keep it curious.
Keep listening.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.